Welcome to Cooler Than You Think. Stories from America's coolest hometown.
Hi, I'm Amanda Livingston. I'm the Director of Tourism for Smith County Tourism Association, and I am delighted to be hosting a short-form podcast series, a mini-series of 5 episodes about America's coolest hometown, Marion, Virginia. And today we're going to be talking about Marion's history with baseball. And I'm so excited to have with me Chad Osborne, who is a Marion resident, Saltville native, and I think it's fair to say baseball enthusiast. Right?
Yes, yeah. Absolutely.
And then also the way we met actually is because you're also a freelance baseball writer. And you did a recent story in the Cardinal News about the new Marion baseball team, which we'll get to. But I just thought you would be a fantastic guest to have on to talk about all things Marion Mets. So thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
This is great. So I'm gonna ask some dumb questions that I already know the answer to, but this is kind of for folks who may not be aware of this kind of cool piece of Southwest Virginia history. So what we're talking today about is the Marion Mets, and so kind of describe to me, who were the Marion Mets? What was the team?
Yeah, the Marion Mets came to Marion in 1965, played there for 12 years, and they were an affiliate of the New York Mets, Major League Baseball team. And the New York Mets were fairly new at that time and stuff. They had just started in 1962. So Marion had been looking for a minor league baseball team for a while. I mean, you can trace it back to the 1930s.
Oh, wow.
Where they were connected. Yeah, they were connected with the Cincinnati Reds for a while, the Philadelphia Athletics, just trying to bring in that minor league team. And they had a vibrant, like a lot of communities around the country had a vibrant semi-pro scene. Teams would go, players, guys from the community would get a team together and go, say like in Marion, and go play Saltville or just travel around.
Okay, yeah.
And then the other teams would come there. But they wanted that minor league team too. So they tried and tried and tried. And just it never worked out for them. And finally, in 1965, they were able to break through and make that connection with the New York Mets, and so they got a team.
That's fascinating because I was going to ask, okay, so Southwest Virginia, where we are, is not anywhere close to New York. So, that was going to say, why Marion, why this rural area of Appalachia? But it sounds like it was the Marions or the Marion leaders were going out and looking for it.
Right.
So it didn't just fall in their lap.
Yeah, absolutely. And, they had other teams that are in that, like Johnson City was affiliated with the New York Yankees, and Harlan, Kentucky was affiliated with the Boston Red Sox. Yeah. So you already had those connections there, and it just happened to match up with the Mets.
Well, that was what I was going to ask is sort of who did they play? What you mentioned Johnson City, Harlan, Kentucky. So was it a regional kind of league that they played in?
They played in the Appalachian League, which was a rookie level league.
Yeah.
And it varied from year to year. Like their first year, they played against, I think it was Harlan, Kentucky, as I said, Johnson City, Bristol. Bristol had a team. And then later years, Covington, Virginia, and Bluefield had a team. So yeah, it was mostly regional teams like that.
And so where did they play in Marion?
They played at the same stadium that the high school field at. It's called Hurricane Stadium now. I think they called it Marion Stadium back then.
Yeah.
But that stadium, I think, was built around the mid-'50s.
Yeah.
And so they were just able, it was just about 10 years old when the Mets came. So they were.
So it's not every high school team that gets to play in a former minor league.
That's right.
Stadium.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
Got that history there. Kind of, they were there 12 years, you said, so that's a pretty good run. Did you ever get a chance to see any of the games?
No, I was a little young for that.
I
was 5 years old, I think, when their last season. So no, I never did get to see them play.
So you came to your sort of love for the Mets after the fact, after they had ended their run.
Right. Yeah. My grandpa got me into baseball.
Yeah.
Ernest DeBoard from Saltville, I'll say his name out there. He got me interested in baseball, and then a little bit later he said, well, hey, in Marion, there was the Marion Mets, but they just left 2 years ago. That was, when I was like 8 years old or something.
Yeah.
And so that just really fascinated me. And he told me that Nolan Ryan played there, and that fascinated me even more. I said, wow, I can't believe that, even to that young age, you think it's hard to believe that those players
Were
actually
there
came so
in
close to
Marion.
us. Yeah.
Well, so tell me some of you mentioned Nolan Ryan. I mean, that's probably, to my knowledge, the most famous sort of alumni of the Marion Mets era. But yeah, so tell me about Nolan Ryan's time in Marion and kind of what that was like. I mean, this was obviously before he was Nolan Ryan, but I mean, he must have been. I imagine he must have had some potential even then, and he really showed his potential.
Yeah, he was drafted, I think, in the 12th round of the Major League Draft. Yeah. So, and they drafted him, and there was a few weeks in Florida that they played, and then they sent him to Marion. I think he arrived. The season started around June 25th. All right,
okay.
And then he arrived in Marion just a few weeks later. And even when he arrived, he didn't get into a game right away, because one thing is the Mets had hand-me-down uniforms from the New York Mets, and I actually got a chance to talk to him about 4 years ago. He said I had to wait till they had like a player got cut or something for them to get a uniform that fit me. So it took him a little while to get into a game.
So they didn't buy. So not only did you have to wait for somebody to get cut, but they had to be roughly your size.
Exactly. And a funny thing is, if you look at the Marion Mets 1965 team picture, you'll notice on the sleeve there's a patch there.
Okay.
And if you look a little closer, you notice it's the the World's Fair patch that the New York Mets were in 1964. So those uniforms that the Marion Mets are wearing, some of them, are the 64 New York Mets. Yeah. So that's an interesting story. But yeah, Nolan Ryan came in. He was, kind of wild at the time.
Oh, okay.
And he had some really good games, and he has a few stinkers too. But he played pretty well there.
So how long did he play? One season?
He played one season. And he was there, the season went for about 3 months, and he was probably there about 2.5 months.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And then quickly moved his way on up.
Yep.
All right. Now, you say he was kind of wild. And so what are some stories that you know about? I mean, I'm not trying to get anybody in trouble. I mean, Mr. Ryan. But,
Yeah. Well, what I mean by wild, I meant wild with his pitching.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Like
I thought he was going out on the town.
Oh, no. It's wild with his pitching. Like he had a really good fastball, but he didn't have great control over it then.
Yeah.
So that's the stories. And there's talk about, in the background, there were some white buildings there at the Marion Stadium.
Okay.
And then when, you couldn't really pick up the ball.
Right.
And so that made it even worse for batters. Like he was throwing really hard and it's kind of all over the place and you really couldn't see it. So that made batters really nervous.
Yeah. So were there any other colorful characters from that era of Marion baseball that come to mind?
Yeah. We talked about Nolan Ryan, and, usually when you talk to somebody about the Marion Mets, the name Nolan Ryan always comes up first. But second, usually the name James Raymond Plummer comes up. And James Raymond was, a Marion native, lived there in Marion, a baseball enthusiast, and he became a bat boy for the Mets when they first came in 1965. And he did all kinds of odd jobs. He would carry the bats around and use all the equipment.
So as a young kid?
Yeah, 15 years old.
Wow.
And he worked his way up, got more jobs, and became the general manager for the Marion Mets. And then one year he was, had aspirations to go to New York, and Joe McDonald, who was like the minor league president of operations for the New York Mets, would come to town occasionally to check on players. And he asked Joe one day, James Raymond said, "Hey, how can I get a job in New York?" And Joe said, "Well, you're going to have to work really hard. If you get up there, you're going to have to do tons of jobs and prove yourself." And that's exactly what he did. And he went to New York. He did tons of jobs. He worked in ticket sales, did all sorts of things, and eventually worked his way up into a promotions job. He was like head of promotions. You see giveaways. He was in charge of that. So he did a lot of that, and he worked there until 2008. Just right before he died. Yeah. So that's another a famous connection that we can make from Marion to New York to the New York Mets.
And I think I remember you said there was that he was such an important part of the Mets that he's kind of memorialized, not just in Marion, but up in New York.
Right. Yeah. If you go to Citi Field, where the New York Mets play now, there's a room where they hold the national anthem singer and the people throwing out the ceremonial first pitch, and that's named for James Raymond Plummer, and they call it the Plum Room.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Well, and I don't know this for sure, but I imagine it's not that common to really work your way up, from bat boy to that level of major league.
Right, yeah, it's very uncommon. He just had this aspiration. That's what he wanted to do.
Yeah.
He loved baseball. He played baseball in college and in high school, and he wanted to go work in New York.
He wanted to live baseball. That was his life. That's amazing. Anybody else that comes to mind, a name?
Yeah, there's a lot of baseball fans will recognize the name Whitey Herzog.
Mm.
Whitey Herzog, he managed in the major leagues, most notably for the St. Louis Cardinals in the 1980s, and he took those teams to the World Series, won one of them. But before that, in the 70s, he was the director of minor league operations for the New York Mets. And he would come to town and check on the Marion Mets. He would make the circuit. He would go to all the, like I think Greenville, South Carolina, but Marion was one of them. He would go 2 or 3 times a year and just check on the players. And he would stay at Hungry Mother State Park.
Oh,
and I actually got to talk to him on the phone a few years ago, right before he died. And he just had so many great stories about coming to Marion and staying at Hungry Mother, he and his wife. And when I was talking to him, his wife could hear what we were talking about.
Yeah.
She was chiming in on the conversation. So that was just a lot of fun. And
I can imagine that. Honey, don't forget this.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly the way it happened. They were just telling me about just all these fun stories about staying out there and just how much they loved visiting the town.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, I know this he was not a Marion Mets player, but we're talking about baseball. And so I would be really remiss if I didn't mention another very, very famous Marion native just inducted to the Baseball Hall of Fame. I mean, just weeks ago.
Yeah. Billy Wagner, they had this ceremony. And then, it's great to see someone from Marion just, work their way up, work their way through the college and the minor leagues and get to the major leagues. And my wife and I, we were painting a room in the den Sunday, and we just had to stop, and it's like, okay, we got to stop now, take a break, and watch his speech. It was just so cool to see someone from Marion on that stage in Cooperstown.
And he's still got community connections. I mean, the mayor was on this podcast and was saying, I've got a picture of him on my fridge from when he was a kid.
Yeah.
He's really tied to the community. So I am just going to put this out there, Billy Wagner or Mr. Wagner or your people, if they're listening, we would love to have you back to Marion. We will invite you. We'll throw a parade. You come back, we'll make a big deal. So come visit us.
Sounds fun.
Yeah. Well, what are some other sort of highlights of their time in Marion? Are there any stories that really jump out to you?
Yeah, they won a couple championships there.
Yeah.
Their first year, they played really well. They were in contention for a championship, but they had a guy named Jim McAndrew who later went on to pitch for the New York Mets. So they were playing well, but they had some players move up, so they kind of faded out and finished in like second or third place in their first year. But then they won the championship the second year, and then I think the fourth year. And then from there they were kind of they were in contention, but in the later years they kind of fizzled out a little bit.
Gotcha.
But they especially early on, they had some really good teams.
Yeah.
They had Bertie Tebbetts was the manager there, and Bertie Tebbetts, funny thing was, he played in the major leagues and he managed in the major leagues. He managed Cincinnati and in Cleveland. And then I think it was his last stint with the Cincinnati Reds. And then he had a heart attack.
Oh.
And then he lost his job there. And then the very next year, I think it was, he was managing, he went from the major leagues to the Marion Mets, which was quite a difference.
So sort of easing into retirement.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And the cool thing is, for Marion, it got a lot of media attention for the town. Life magazine came and interviewed him, followed him around, took pictures of him and his family at Hungry Mother State Park. So that garnered a lot of attention. And then, what was it? The year before that, the New York Times came to Marion to mostly, just to feature this town that was affiliated with the New York Mets. There was a writer who came and a photographer who came to town. It was mostly they wanted to feature a player named Mike Jorgensen, who went on to play for the Mets in New York and a few other teams in the major league. So that was kind of a cool story.
What did they make of these big city writers? What did they make of Marion?
They
environment?
Really liked it. From the stories that I read and. That they really liked it. I actually talked to the writer, and he said, it's just so interesting to go from these big city, Mets and the players to this small town, to where people really appreciate the players and want to come out and see them play and hope they make it to the major leagues.
Yeah, I was going to ask, were they embraced by the community? Was it really popular?
Yeah, it was really popular. So early on in, that first season, people really pitched in to help. That one of the stipulations that the New York Mets had to put the team there said, hey, you got to improve the field a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
You got to provide things like batting cages, and people came out and resodded the field, just volunteered.
Just
they like on a Saturday.
Community members.
Yeah, painted the dugouts. They were able to buy the batting cages somehow. Yeah,
that's cool.
So people really turned out for it and really excited about it.
And then I imagine they would watch those players as they moved up into the major leagues and feel investment. And so I guess the end of the 12-year run, what happened? They picked up stakes. What happened?
I think there were a few things. I think there was a little bit of a declining interest in the team, but I think that was mostly because they didn't have as good as players then, and the teams weren't so good. They would have losing records.
Yeah.
And I think the Mets just decided to relocate somewhere else, but they didn't relocate right away. They didn't have a rookie league team right away.
Yeah.
So I think they were just reevaluated and said, we would like to try somewhere else. And then 4 years later, they put a rookie league team in Kingsport. So they were the Kingsport Mets for a long time.
Interesting. And where are they now? Where's the rookie?
I'm not really sure. The major leagues reconstructed the minor leagues.
So it's not the same as it was.
It's not quite the same as it was. Yeah.
Well, I know a lot of people, when I talk to folks in the community, there are a lot of people with fond memories, and they really missed, when they left.
Yeah.
There was a lot of investment in that. So one of the things that happened this summer and how you and I met is that, as I mentioned, Marion is now the home of a summer collegiate wood bat team, the Marion Hungry Mothers. And they are also playing at Hurricane Stadium, the old Marion Stadium. So, have you had a chance to see any of their games?
Yeah. I've not as many as I want to. I was hoping to get to all of them, but I've probably been to about 3 or 4.
Yeah,
and it's great. It's great. It's a great atmosphere. I mean, if you were there for the July 6th game when they had the fireworks, it was just a huge crowd.
Yeah.
But even when it's not such a big crowd, there's still a good crowd there, even when it's not a fireworks night. But the really cool thing to me is going to the ballpark and seeing people there with Hungry Mothers T-shirts on, baseball caps.
Oh, yeah. I brought I'll show the camera. I brought my baseball cap.
And it's just really neat to see how the community is embracing the team.
Yeah.
Like everybody so many people were excited about baseball coming back to Marion. And it's just a lot of fun to go to those games and just sit and chill out and watch some baseball on a summer night.
Yeah. Well, so this is getting a little bit in the weeds, but just for someone who's not familiar, who may not be a baseball person, what is, talk about what it means to be a collegiate summer team versus, kind of minor league team like the Marion Mets.
Yeah, the collegiate summer teams, in college baseball, they use the aluminum bats. Yeah. So they come to the summer league and they use the wooden bats.
Yeah.
It's for basically for college players just to keep their game going, just to, maybe work on some things.
Have a chance to keep playing.
Yeah, have a chance to keep playing, work on their skills, and they go back to their schools in the fall and play fall ball and just take what they've learned with them and just really, I mean, if you've been around the player, you can tell that those guys really enjoy being around each other. Yeah. So I think the camaraderie is just part of it, just being a part of the team and keeping that going from, the spring, kind of a bridge between the spring and the fall.
Yeah.
Just to keep playing baseball. Well,
you kind of touched on this a little bit, but I'm going to ask this kind of leading question, so why local baseball? Why does it matter that we have a local team? I mean, obviously you can tune into ESPN. You can probably see, frankly, maybe some better skilled players up at the major leagues for free at home on your couch. Why does it matter to have a local team?
Yeah, I think it's something. Well, one thing is just something to do in the summer. It's another thing to do in the summer. But I think going out to a baseball game, to me, it's just a really cool experience. Something you can go out on a Tuesday night. Grab a hot dog, take your lawn chair. Like if you've been to a Hungry Mother game, you can sit in the bleachers, but you can take your lawn chairs too.
Oh, yeah.
And just sit around. And you can, baseball is the kind of game that you can enjoy it on a few different levels. You can sit there and you can hang on every pitch and just watch what's going on. You can keep score if you want, or you can just sit there and talk to friends.
Just kind of eat
the hot dogs. Yeah. And,
around you.
Do a crossword puzzle and you hear the crowd cheering and you look up and there's a guy rounding third and he scores. You're like, yay, you clap and you stand up and you can go back to it. It's just, baseball's that kind of game. You can pay as much attention to it as you want. And it's just fun to be, for me, it's just fun to be out in the summer at the ballpark under summer skies. And,
the atmosphere is really, really cool. I've got young kids, and I took them to the game, and they had a blast. And it's kind of, because they're the same way, they're not hanging on every pitch. They're little, but they're, they're watching them, they're running around, and they're getting some popcorn, and they're just,
that's one of the fun things.
Yeah.
I seeing the kids chase the foul ball. So that's just
yes. Those kids were, there was one little boy who was obsessed. He was going after, he was starting a collection right away. Well, that is fantastic. So I was going to say, if folks are interested in more information about the Marion Mets specifically, you've actually got a website.
Right.
You've collected a lot of this. What is the website?
It's Marion Mets /substack.com.
Okay.
And it's just a collection of stories that I've put together over, I don't know, the past 5 or 6 years.
Oh, that's
just
great.
From doing research and calling up old players and, just talking to them. And I just like to, talk to people and write stories. So, I'm kind of slow about updating it. So, it seems like I like to write more in the winter. It seems like in the summer,
there's not as much to do.
Yeah, in the summer, I got baseball. I can pay attention to it. And then when it's over, it's like, oh, maybe I should go back to my Marion Mets research, kind of keep that baseball thing going.
Well, I think that's a fantastic resource. So we'll definitely put that link in the show notes when we publish this. And absolutely. And anyone who's interested in baseball or in Marion history or Nolan Ryan trivia should definitely go check out that website. And I guess, one last question is, okay, so we've got the Marion Hungry Mothers, which I should, put in a plug for them. They're going to be back in 2026, and you can get your season tickets, I'm sure, on their website. But I would say, do you think there is, if you go see the Marion Hungry Mothers play, do you think there's another Nolan Ryan potentially on the team somewhere?
Well, you never know.
Yeah.
You never know because, no one really expected that out of Nolan Ryan.
Yeah.
And there's been players throughout baseball history. It just come out of nowhere.
Right. So you have to go check it out, and then you can say you saw them win.
Absolutely. So, absolutely.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for doing this. This has been so much fun. And again, check out the website. I would encourage everybody to check out the website and learn a little bit more about the history. And just appreciate you. And I look forward to seeing you at the games next year.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.